Hi guys, a man named Kevin from Bristol did a wonderful job of calling into the Iain Dale show on LBC to quiz Brexiteer and Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch on how well things are going since the UK left the European Union. Badenoch has recently been trying to sell memorandums of understanding with countries in Europe and the States in the US as trade deals, probably because she thinks the public is too dumb to understand the difference. But Kevin here asked about trade barriers, and it all sort of went downhill after that. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, my question is that as you, Kemi Badenoch, you voted for Brexit, how well you think the British economy is going, especially as we were the first economy in trade history to raise barriers with our major trading partners, and the trade deals done so far are really very small and don't a small beer compared with the trade arrangement of the EU. Thank you.
So we haven't, certainly we didn't originally raise barriers. We actually didn't raise barriers.
What? Oh my goodness. Are these people really this stupid, or are they just pretending to be stupid? We didn't raise barriers. So we were a member of the single market, then we left, and suddenly there were these barriers to trade. How would anyone know that there were going to be barriers to trade? Like, when we were a member of the single market, we were ensuring that anyone outside the single market would have barriers to trade. Then we left the single market, and for some reason, there were barriers to trade. I keep asking this question. Are these politicians stupid, or are they just pretending to be stupid?
Barriers. The EU did, and that was one of the risks I think that we were aware of, that there might be some retaliation for us leaving.
Retaliation for us leaving. They said if you leave the single market, there will be barriers to trade. Now, unfortunately, many Brexiteers said, no, there won't be any barriers to trade, because why would the EU impose barriers to trade on us? We're so important. Reasonable people who understood reality said, well, if you are outside the single market and the single market likes to protect the single market, then there will be barriers to trade. Like, believing that there won't be barriers to trade was not enough.
You are about to impose barriers.
Yes, but the reason why, and this is one of the interesting things about how these things play out, the reason why is because we have a lot of stakeholders, farmers, for example, who want a level playing field. And
then why did you not impose this from the beginning? Why are you doing it so long later? See, this is the bullshit argument that they present. We're actually imposing these barriers to trade because we care about our farmers. If you cared about your farmers, you would have imposed those barriers on the EU, on the single market that is exporting into the UK, into Great Britain, I should say, because of Northern Ireland, into Great Britain. Then you would have done it from day one, but you didn't do it from day one. Why not? Well, I'll have to fill in the blank here, because it would have crashed the economy. It would be too expensive. Brexit did not all happen in one go. It was delayed. It was spread out over a number of years to have less of an impact.
And this is where the tension between the free market and the protectionism comes in. That if you pick a free market, free trade strategy, you need to, again, risk appetite comes into it. You need to decide how far you are going to go. But what I would...
I just think these people didn't know what they were selling. Back in 2016, they said, we're going to leave the European Union. What does that mean? I don't know. We're not going to think that far ahead. Will it mean leaving the single market? What's the single market? Will it mean leaving the customs union? What's the customs union? These are the sort of responses I think most of these Brexiteers had at the time. They didn't understand what the European Union was. They didn't understand the single market. They didn't understand trade. They didn't understand any of these things. They just believed, well, we need to leave the European Union because immigration. Because people don't like to see so many foreigners about, or they're tired of hearing foreign accents in their local supermarket.
Would stress is that we do have the most comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU. No other country in the world has.
But it's not being a member of the single market. You had single market access. Now you have less than that, much less than that. And you're trying to sell that as some sort of win. It's like having a car and then crushing the car and then being left having to travel on foot and say, look, isn't traveling on foot wonderful? Nobody else can travel on foot. Other people have cars, but that's overrated.
as this. So the trade deals which we are doing are in addition to that, not instead of.
What? This is in addition? In addition to what? You have lost single market access, and now you're saying, well, these trade deals are in addition to having lost. You're trying to sell it as some sort of win. You have lost access to the single market, and she's trying to sell it as, well, this agreement we have, this free trade agreement we have with the European Union is wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's crap compared to single market access. And then you're trying to say, well, it's wonderful, and we have all these other benefits, which are not actually helping British farmers.
And many people talk about the benefits being so small. You look at the figures for what's happened with trade with Australia since we signed the FTA, far more than any of the models predicted. It is going gangbusters.
Yeah, trade is up. In what? She won't give figures. She'll say trade is up 300% in certain produce. Can we see the figures, the actual numbers? Because the actual numbers is pretty little. Like there's more trade, going from Australia and New Zealand to Britain than the other way around.
We are now the fourth largest exporter in the world. On services exporters, we are doing brilliantly, I think.
Now, when it comes to services, yes, it seems on the surface that the UK economy, when it comes to selling services, is up. Now, is that down to Brexit or is it not down to Brexit? Because I don't see how Brexit can help or Brexit can hinder. Because if your argument is, see, we left the European Union, now we're able to sell more services. But how has Brexit helped? See, the Brexiteers will point to, see, sales are up when it comes to services. But explain how Brexit helps that. Because you're not selling goods. There are no real barriers to trade when it comes to services. So services are up. They could have been actually higher if the UK was still a member of the European Union, or maybe not. So I think Brexit here, when it comes to services, is a bit of a red herring. Now, not all services. Some services are impacted by Brexit. But if you're going to say that, well, we're leading with services post-Brexit, you have to make that connection. You can't just make it in your head.
I think we're the second
but
largest
you are putting up barriers.
in the world. Yes, but the other things have come down. So we've removed tariffs, for example. We removed.
But there were no tariffs before. You can't say, well, look, yeah, we left the single market where there were no tariffs between us and the European Union. But now we're going to bring down tariffs. Like, what, minus tariffs?
Loads of tariffs, and the cost of living crisis has actually hidden quite a lot of what has been done. We've removed.
And here we come. See, Brexit would have been a success if it wasn't for the war in Ukraine or the pandemic. Isn't it so convenient? See, this argument falls apart as soon as you apply any sort of scrutiny at all. Point us in the direction of something that Brexit has Brexit has benefited the UK economy, benefited ordinary people. Point to something, because if you point to something, we can adjust it we can adjust the impact the pandemic or the war in Ukraine has had on that benefit, but you can't even come up with the benefit.
Tariffs on lots of products, which became cheaper, but inflation has masked.
But if you're a delicate.
So, she's trying to suggest that. So what we did was we brought down these tariffs. And that made goods cheaper because of it. But inflation has driven up the price, so we've lost that benefit. Does anyone actually believe this? Does this actually make any sense to anyone?
Delicatessen owner in Britain, I can't remember when this comes in, but it's imminent if it hasn't already happened. And you're importing cheeses from Italy, for example. You're going to be faced with a bill for every time you import them up to £145. Now that cannot be absorbed by the importer, so it's going to have to be passed on to the consumer. Therefore, inflation goes up again.
So. In a manner of speaking, inflation, there are lots of different products that will have more of an impact on inflation than others. But, interest rates and so on, those are the things that will really, really have an impact. The owner of that delicatessen is also able to source cheaper products from all over the world.
So if they want to buy their Italian cheese, don't buy it from Italy, buy it from China. Oh my goodness! Is she really just extracting the urine here? Is this just a joke? You know, I covered in another video recently where the European Union signed an agreement, a free trade agreement with New Zealand. And part of that agreement was to protect feta cheese, Greek feta cheese. And she's saying, well, if you want to buy your feta cheese, well, buy it from America or buy it from China or buy it from Japan. Maybe Liz Truss can help out there. It's absolutely pathetic. She has no benefit. She can't find any benefits to Brexit. And even if she does, she adds the caveat, well, you know, it's been impacted by the pandemic or the war in Ukraine or whatever. But the icing on the cake, of course, is the European Union put up these barriers to trade, not us. So it's the European Union's fault that Britain is struggling at the moment. And British farmers are struggling and British importers are struggling. Oh my goodness. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.